Team Honda's Jeremy McGrath, after winning 125cc regional Supercross championships in 1991 and 92, turned his attention in 1993 to the chase for the prestigious AMA 250 Supercross crown. At round 3 of the series in Anaheim, California, the rookie rider shocked the competition and fans alike by capturing the win. Lightning had struck. Before that 1993 season ended, it struck 9 more times. The 10 wins were the most ever recorded in a single season of Supercross racing. McGrath earned the name Showtime, and Jeremy McGrath became the first rookie in history to win the prestigious Supercross crown. Was McGrath for real? Only Bob Hanna and Jeff Stanton had won back-to-back crowns. Was McGrath worthy of joining that elite group? In other words, would lightning strike again?
I think in the past I haven't trained as hard, and then like 3-4 weeks before the races I started really getting into it, where this time I tried harder. And hopefully I'll see some results quicker in the Supercross season, so that halfway through I'm not just getting started winning. I'll be winning right off the bat.
It's a new bike. I'm happy with everything that's gone on during the winter. All the testing's been great. My mechanic's been pushing me pretty hard. And I feel like I can be a good competitor right now. I can go up there and run at the top.
I prepared myself a lot differently than I have any other year. I've been doing it for a lot of years, and I basically had to. I was just burnt out last year, had no fun. So I predict that I'm going to be a contender all the way through this thing to win in every race. I'm going to be right there banging bars with whoever's up front because I'm having fun, and it's I brought the energy back into it.
One of the main things that I have to do this year is to stay healthy because most other stuff will come. So it's just not taking any chances and, making sure before I do anything that I feel up to it.
I had a pretty good off season in Europe, and I don't know, I expect to keep the ball rolling. There's some guys that are riding really good, but I think I'm feeling strong and ready to win.
And with those words from some of the anticipated contenders for the 1994 Supercross Championship, the gate dropped in Orlando, Florida on the opening round, and the season was underway. For the next hour, we'll look back on the chase for the title. We'll hear from the riders that enjoyed moments of glory and all too often suffered the agony of defeat. The first hole shot of the year went to privateer Larry Ward riding the No-Lean Sizzler Restaurant Yamaha. Behind was Jeremy McGrath and his Honda teammates Doug Henry, number 8, and 3-time Supercross champ Jeff Stanton, number 5. McGrath wasted no time. He flew even with Ward, gave him a look, and made the pass. For 2 title hopefuls, the season got off to a smashing start, literally. Swink, number 10, and Mike Kidrowski took each other out in the first lap. Neither rider was injured, but they were both out of contention. Back to the front of the pack, where Larry Ward is now in 3rd place behind the leader McGrath and Doug Henry. 3rd place, though, is in jeopardy as Jeff Stanton has drawn a bead on Ward. Stanton has his mind set on Hondas running 1, 2, 3. After the race, Stanton described what happened.
I was just praying that I wouldn't end up on the ground, and I could see he was out of control, and his bike was coming at me, so I was just hoping I wouldn't end up on the ground.
Stanton's prayers were answered. By the narrowest of margins, the veteran Honda rider took control of 2nd place. Larry Ward picked himself up and finished 17th. Meanwhile, Mike LaRocco was running a typical Mike LaRocco race. That being, start in the middle of the pack, pass everything in sight on the way to the front of the pack. That was Steve Lansing who just went by, and now he's after Doug Henry, who a few corners earlier had been passed by Stanton. No problem, and LaRocco has just disposed of one half of Team Honda. LaRocco had won the Orlando season opener 2 years running. He was out to make it 3. LaRocco quickly moved to the rear wheel of 2nd place Jeff Stanton. In a series of jumps, LaRocco pulled alongside and appeared to have the pass made. But Stanton had the inside line and blocked LaRocco. But hey, LaRocco didn't pass half the field to settle for 3rd. A few corners later, he was set to try again. This time, he would get the job done. The 2 riders went at it side by side in a series of whoops. This time, LaRocco had the inside line, and the pass was made. A bonsai charge? Mike LaRocco said no.
I was pretty much in control. I really didn't make too many mistakes, so I knew that usually if I do ride out of my control, I make some mistakes and lose some time. So I made up time almost every lap, so I was in control and I felt really good.
With time running out, McGrath was cruising. One eye was on the lookout for the checkered flag, the other on Larocco.
I had a pace going through the whole race, and I wasn't going to change my pace because that's when you mess up. I mean, I could see him coming, but I could tell that I had enough laps to where if I kept my same pace that I could still win the race.
Well, I felt like I was riding good. I was just a little disappointed in my start. Like I said, I needed to get out front to beat Jeremy, and I was too far back to do that. So that's something a little unhappy with.
It's a tough track. It was really rutted, and Larocco was on the gas for sure. But I did just what I wanted to do. I got a good start. I kind of screwed up there in the middle, like third lap or so, but I got it together and started riding and pulled it off.
From Orlando, the stars of the Supercross Series packed their bags to begin the first Western swing of the season. First stop, the Houston Astrodome. The gate is about to fall on the main event. Let's watch the start. For the second race in a row, the field was led through corner number 1 by a Yamaha. This time it was the factory bike ridden by Jeff Emig. Close behind were the Yamahas of Larry Ward in second and Michael Craig third. Those positions are about to change. Larry Ward forced Emig to the bails as he made the pass to take the lead. Emig lost his momentum and Craig moved to second place. Now back in the field, juggling positions were Kiedrowski, McGrath, and Larocco. All three had suffered poor starts. They needed to pass in wholesale lots to get to the front of the pack before the leaders got away. Of the three, McGrath was easily the most aggressive. He disposed of Kiedrowski, then went after Jeff Matasevich, rider number 21. Watch this to begin to understand McGrath's Supercross style. Unlike most other riders, McGrath does not wait for traffic to thin out. At the front or rear of the pack, McGrath rides the opening laps with nothing held back. And on occasion, he takes a risk, like that move on Suzuki's Brian Swink. Coming up, another look at what could have been total disaster. McGrath, by the narrowest of margins, missed landing on Honda teammate Jeff Stanton, then collected Brian Swink. Lightning strikes in mysterious ways. In sixth place, McGrath had the leaders in sight. It was now a matter of picking off, one by one, those who stood between himself and the checkered flag. A pair of Honda teammates were the next to fall as McGrath disposed of Stanton and Steve Lamson. Jeremy McGrath, the defending Supercross champ, was on a roll. Next on the hit list, Michael Craig. Watch McGrath. He'll pull alongside. He'll look over at Michael Craig as if to say, hey, you're in my space. Then made the pass. Now in third place, McGrath is after Jeff Emig, rider number 6. Emig would prove to be a more formidable opponent. Emig, feeling the pressure of Jeremy McGrath, gaining ground behind him, picked up the pace. Emig, with McGrath in tow, moved to the rear wheel of race leader Larry Ward. Ward, for the second week in a row, was under pressure from running at the front of the pack. It was the factory Yamaha versus the privateer of Ward. Jeff Emig disposes of Larry Ward. At this point in the race, it was Jeff Emig out front, Larry Ward in second, Jeremy McGrath in third. Behind the race leaders, Mike Kiedrowski and Mike Larocco were struggling to catch up. Larocco catches up to Michael Craig. The two riders battle. Yamaha versus Kawasaki. Mike Larocco moved to the inside and over the finish line jump, made the pass. Mike Larocco was now in third place. Meanwhile, Jeremy McGrath had disposed of Larry Ward and was in another battle with Jeff Emig over the number 1 position. And with that stuff, Emig went into the bails. Jeremy McGrath went into the lead. Mike Larocco quickly caught to the rear wheel of Jeff Emig, and he too will make the pass to move into second place. It would again be, for the second week in a row, a Jeremy McGrath and Mike Larocco shootout to the finish line. Larocco again coming from out of the pack, trying to catch Jeremy McGrath. A pattern established in 1993 and a carryover into 1994. With the laps winding down, Mike Larocco was this close, but time would run out. Larocco would settle for second place.
Well, I felt confident for a while, then I seen Mike coming on strong, so then I had to pick up the pace again, and I think that's the toughest race I've ever had to race, and the last 6 laps were pretty tough.
The last lap in Houston, the pair of riders, Larocco and McGrath, are headed for the checkered flag. LaRocco needs a new plan to beat McGrath.
Well, I think the best thing to do is to get out in front of him, which, again, tonight I didn't do, but I definitely have the speed to do it, and, you know, I caught Jeremy towards the end of that race. I was just kind of hanging in there trying to find him, you know, a place where I could pass him, but, you know, he wasn't making any mistakes, so he made it tough.
Mike LaRocco headed for the pits while Jeremy McGrath acknowledged the cheers of the crowd with a victory lap. From 15th place at the start of the race to the checkered flag, it was possibly the finest win of McGrath's career. Absent from the top 10 was Mike Kidrowski. He had crashed for the second week in a row.
I just kind of got off to a slow start this year and been running back in the back of the pack, not getting good starts. And, you know, when you're back there, you're fighting with a lot of guys maybe you shouldn't be. And so we got to change that around.
Anaheim Stadium, the site of Jeremy McGrath's first ever Supercross win. The venue was located about 50 miles from McGrath's home. Needless to say, Kidrowski, LaRocco, and the rest of the title contenders had minimal crowd support. Watch as the field rounds corner number 1. Third week in a row, rider number 7, Mike LaRocco, is back in the pack. For LaRocco, though, the poor hole shot was the least of his problems.
Yeah, when I landed off that little triple jump after the whoops, I landed real hard, and when I did land, something in the inside of my bike broke, and it just started making a lot of noise. Yeah, I felt, you know, I was in a good position that I had a chance this year to, you know, to take the title away from Jeremy. He's riding good, but I think I had the speed to do it, and, you know, it's just gonna make it a lot harder this way.
It was only the third event of the season, and although Mike LaRocco maintained a positive attitude, his season had fallen apart. He would need a McGrath breakdown to pull back into title contention. At the front of the pack in Anaheim, Jeff Emig and Jeremy McGrath had passed Larry Ward. McGrath had found the right combination to pass Emig for the lead. Usually when McGrath takes the lead, it's all over, but not in Anaheim. Emig got tough and regained the point position. Behind the leaders, Jeff Stanton caught Larry Ward. His pass attempt nearly put him on the ground, but Stanton kept the throttle on and recovered. That left him with the fastest line through the corner, and he moved to the number 3 slot. A few laps later, it was a three-way battle for the lead when Emig bobbled in a series of whoops. McGrath made the pass and began to pull away. Then it was Stanton's turn. Riding his best race of the young season, Stanton pulled into second place. At the outset of the season, Stanton had claimed a revitalized interest in Supercross. That pass was an indication the three-time champ meant what he said. Mike Kidrowski was also on the move. He had caught number 8, Doug Henry, resulting in this battle for 5th. Henry, the 1993 125 Eastern champ, is about to get a lesson in the not-too-gentle art of block passing. Hello, hay bales. Goodbye, Mike Kidrowski. For the first time in the season, McGrath was out front with no one chasing him. On the last lap with a clear track, Jeremy McGrath reminded the crowd why his nickname is Showtime.
Got a great start, you know. My 1-800 Honda Collect bike was running great, you know. I mean, couldn't have done it no better. That's the kind of lead I like when I win the races, and the track was perfect for me. I mean, technical, it was just like my backyard.
I wonder if McGrath builds a new track in his backyard every week to practice on the upcoming Supercross event. And also, do you suppose when McGrath is in his backyard, he practices waving to the crowd? And how about finish line jumps? Watch the one coming up. McGrath claims win number 3 on the season. Larry Ward took top privateer honors with a strong third-place finish behind Stanton and McGrath. Mike Kidrowski passed Emig to claim 4th. Here are the rest of the top 10, Matasevich, Lamson, Swink, Craig, and Henry. Here are the standings after 3 rounds of the 1994 Supercross season. Round 4, heat race number 1 is in progress. Keep your eye on the left side of your screen. Jeff Stanton just demonstrated how not to complete a jump. 3-time champ hit the ground hard but was unhurt. Watch it again in slow motion. The takeoff was the problem. Stanton was headed for the hay bales on the side of the track. Tried to correct in midair, but he missed and he was on the ground. Now let's jump to the second heat race of the night. A familiar sight, McGrath out front. Coming up, an unfamiliar sight. Now you watch as McGrath bobbles and is run into by Michael Craig. Well, I'll tell you that in San Diego, McGrath was not the favorite in the main event. He was sick from the flu and had trouble breathing. McGrath, of course, did not make the main event out of the heat race, had to go to the semifinal where he was beaten by Michael Craig. A prime opportunity for the competition to gain championship points. Take another look. The Stanton and McGrath crashes were a mere sample of what was ahead. San Diego marked the return to Supercross racing of the ever-popular Ron Lachine. The Dogger had high hopes for a strong finish, but in the first corner, his hopes ended up on the ground. Out front for the fourth time in as many races, a Yamaha. Riding as a privateer, Jeff Matasevich in the early going led the factory Yamaha of Michael Craig, Honda Steve Lamson, Jeremy McGrath, and Mike LaRocco. On a triple jump, Lamson came up short, allowing McGrath and LaRocco to move into third and fourth. Then it was Matasevich's turn to make a mistake. Michael Craig will take the point position, and Jeremy McGrath will soon follow suit. Now, prior to the race, McGrath had announced his strategy. To offset his weak condition, he wanted a hole shot. He intended to ride as fast as he could until his strength ran out. He would then hang on and hope for the best. With Craig on the point, the plan was in arrears. To make matters worse, with his best start of the season, Mike LaRocco was in touch with the leaders. Remember, LaRocco's come-from-behind rides in the first two races of the series were spectacular. Now consider McGrath's weakened condition. There's little doubt in the minds of most of the onlookers that LaRocco was in position to take the win. He passed Matasevich, then he made this mistake. The front end of his Kawasaki washed out. LaRocco went down. Matasevich, with nowhere to go, plowed into the fallen rider. As LaRocco struggled to get back in the race, he was passed by a half-dozen riders. Considering those come-from-behind rides already in the book, LaRocco was still in contention, but he would need a bonsai charge to get close to the leaders. Jeremy McGrath, meanwhile, was trying to make good his game plan. He was still riding strong and wanted the lead. He almost got it, but Michael Craig cut him off in the corner, and McGrath dropped back to reassess the situation. Back to LaRocco. He's ballistic. He's charged back to sixth and looking hard for fifth. Watch this. Jeff Emming was the victim, and as you're about to see, an unhappy one at that. LaRocco, though, got a real kick out of the situation. Watch it again, and you decide, was there room to make the pass? Did LaRocco look before he leaped? Did Emming move in front of LaRocco? You be the judge and jury as we listen to the testimony from both riders.
Yeah, I think I was running about fifth, you know, and there's a little step up into a corner, like I was taking the inside every lap, and for some reason, he decided, that he's just going to jump all the way over the obstacle, all the way into the corner, landed right on top of me, and he took me out. Well, I mean, he took us both out.
Well, actually, I was, I had went down once earlier, and I knew if I was going to beat McGrath tonight that I had to go for it, and, that's what I was doing. And I went for it on the inside in that corner, and, it was not enough room, but I tried to force it, and, we went down.
In the, in the heat of the moment, I was a little bit pissed, and right when I got up, I was like, man, what? And I just kicked him right in the back,
No, actually, he kicks like a girl, so I really wasn't bothered by that, and, when it happened, I really didn't even know he kicked me, but...
12 laps into the race, and Michael Craig was still out front, and despite his physical condition, Jeremy McGrath was still applying pressure. Craig finally cracked. McGrath took the lead. The excitement, though, was not over. Mike Kidrowski caught Craig and is about to move into second place. From there, in the closing laps, he chipped away at McGrath's lead. On the last lap, in striking position, Kidrowski tried a little too hard. The Kawasaki ace was able to pick himself up to hold on to second. McGrath, blue and all, sailed across the San Diego finish line to make it 4 in a row. The win tried McGrath with Rick Johnson for the most wins in 2 seasons of racing, 14. McGrath had 11 chances left to break the tie. Here's how the rest of the pack finished at round 4. McGrath, Kidrowski, Craig, Lamson, Matasevich. Here are the second 5, Ward, Swink, LaRocco, Stanton, and Emming. Check the points. McGrath could set out round 5 and would still be the series points leader. McGrath needed liking to strike strike one more time to tie another record, the most wins at the beginning of a season. Rick Johnson won 5 in 1989. Let's hear from the factory team manager.
Well, up to this point, Honda's very happy with what the team has done so far. Jeremy, probably a little bit more than we expected, winning all 4 of the first events. And we have Jeff Stanton in second in the series, Steve Lampson's in fourth, and Doug Henry, coming off of a pre-season injury, is actually starting to improve week to week. So overall, knock on wood, real well.
Right now, Team Suzuki is getting back on track. Their first couple races, we had a few troubles with Brian falling, coming from the back of the pack, but he rode strong, and we had a couple things on the bike to iron out. Things are looking better, and Brian's back in his hometown, so he's pumped about that.
Been a little bit rough this season for us. We started off real strong. LaRocco started off real strong, and then he suffered that setback with the mechanical DNF at Anaheim that put us back quite a ways in the points. So just looking at each race, one race at a time, trying to come back and get back in the points race here. Kudrowski came on strong last week at San Diego with a second place finish, and I know he's feeling a lot better, so I'm sure we're going to see him back up in the top again. But as far as the series, it's we're going to have to look at it as the full series length now and just get back up in it as far as we can.
Not satisfied, no, but I think actually from where the guys are, it's real good. We've been on the victory podium a couple times. We had expected, honestly, to win a race by now, but everything's coming together good, and there's tonight.
And tonight was looking good for Yamaha. At this point, it was Craig, Matasevich, Kudrowski, McGrath, and with this pass on Lampson, LaRocco cracked the top 5. As good as it was for Yamaha, it was that bad for Honda. Jeff Stanton, who later said he was taken out by Emig, was the first Honda rider out of contention. Then it was Jeremy McGrath's turn. Trying to get to the front of the pack, he ran off the track. When he came back on, he hit Brian Swink and crashed. The third Honda rider to hit the dirt was number 8, Doug Henry. 3/4 of the Honda team had crashed. Out front, Michael Craig knew none of that. What he did know was he was on the way to his first Supercross win.
I think I was in another world. Everybody was just, it seemed like everybody I looked at had the biggest grin on their face. I think I had the grin on my face all night, and the feeling that I had was just, I was thinking about my family at home and, what they're going to be, hearing from my mechanic when he called, and just so many things are going through my head that, I wasn't really sitting there focusing on anybody certain, but just that feeling was just incredible.
Hugs all the way around for Craig and a victory ride for his good friend and tuner, Brian Lunas. The Tampa finishing order looked like this, with McGrath recovering to finish 5th. Here are the second 5, Jeff Matasevich, Ryan Hughes, Ward, Emig, and Buddy Antonez. Craig's win moved the first-year factory rider to second in the standings, while Stanton, who finished 17th, dropped from second to 5th. As the series traveled to Atlanta, the competition had proved positive that McGrath was not invincible. Perhaps it was wishful thinking, or maybe the grasping of straws. Regardless, in the minds of some, that single loss opened the door. McGrath viewed it as a minor setback.
I think there was 19 other guys that was after Jeremy, and I was one of the guys that stopped him. A lot of other guys out there are really hungry, and they're all going fast. So, I think that this ain't going to be the end of it. There are going to be a couple other guys that are going to be winning some races, and hopefully I can get a couple more.
Last year and the beginning of this year, he was riding a pace of his own, and I think we've all kind of stepped up to that pace.
Yeah, it could be, 1 week. It probably didn't hurt his confidence that much, being one weekend he fell. But if it happens again, then he's going to start wandering, and when he starts wandering, that just is going to make it tough for him, and he's going to start getting beat more and more.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys out there that are pretty confident right now, and, they probably don't realize that I'm sick and I'm not at my best right now. But I'm still hanging in there, so, as soon as I get better, then they have a real problem again.
Action to this point in the race included a Mike Kudrowski crash in the first corner and another poor start on the part of his teammate Mike LaRocco. Jeff Emig was out front, followed by Suzuki's Brian Swink, then Jeremy McGrath, who just passed Steve Lampson. Take a look at Mechanics Row. Confusing mass of pit boards? You bet. Did you see one that said Swink? Crash in the next corner. Well, Brian Swink evidently did. Watch this. That quick, the best ride of the season for Brian Swink turned to mush. The Team Suzuki rider recovered to finish 8th on the night. With Swink out of the way, McGrath had a clear shot at Emig. The defending Supercross champ, who this week was recovering from a case of chickenpox, made the pass. Emig, apparently not afraid of the highly contagious virus, tried to keep pace, but no luck. Behind the leaders, the rest of Team Honda was involved, passing each other. Here's Stanton working on Lamson. Off the finish line jump, Stanton completes the pass. No, Stanton's mechanic says, "Show me." Stanton drew a bead on Doug Henry, chased him through a set of small jumps, drew even with him in the midst of a triple, made the pass in the following corner. Jeff Stanton goes into third. Wyatt Seals says, I'll flash him the old show me sign again, see if it'll work twice. Stanton responded by moving to the rear wheel of Emig. The battle was on. Emig had been passed by one Honda rider, and he figured that was enough. He answered Stanton's challenge with a handful of throttle and a wide line in the corner that forced Stanton to back off the pace. But not for long. The three-time Supercross champ had it all together, but watch what happens as he takes the lead. After the contact, it was back on the gas for both riders. Stanton nearly ran off the track, but he never shut off. Emig hung tough, but the former champ had the best lines in the corners following the incident, and the pass was made. Let's take another look. Both riders later said it was incidental contact, but it looks from here like Emig could have put a little more effort into making the corner. With 6 laps to go, Mike LaRocco was in the middle of another come-from-off-the-pace charge. He had worked up to 5th place with the leaders in sight, then this. LaRocco's miscalculation carried him to the side of the track and into the bales. His charge for the night was over. We'll take another look. What I want you to watch is LaRocco as he realizes his error. He's going to try to adjust his landing in mid-air. LaRocco finished 7th on the night. After taking the lead on lap 5 of the 20-lap main event, McGrath, chickenpox and all, turned in an error-free ride to claim his 5th win of the season. Check out the finishing positions. It's Jeremy McGrath on top, followed by Stanton, Jeff Emig, Michael Craig, then Steve Lamson rounding out the top 5. Kiedrowski, LaRocco, Swink, Henry, and Cliff Palmer aboard the KTM were the next 5 riders. Here are the point standings. Jeremy McGrath, 141 on top. From Georgia, the Supercross Series returned to Florida and Daytona Beach for round 7 of the 15-race series. Because the race was televised by a network other than ESPN, we are not allowed to bring you video of the event. The winner for the 2nd year in a row was Kawasaki's Mike Kiedrowski.
Well, the race went really good. We prepared for it really good through the week, and me and my mechanic Shane just did a lot of testing, a lot of riding and stuff at sand tracks, and we went there and everything went, the way everything was planned to be, and that's how you win races, when everything goes perfect, and it did there.
For those fans who have no idea what Daytona was like at all, they're seeing this show, okay? What were those plans, and how did they pan out as far as the track itself and your victory?
Well, at Daytona, it's kind of a different track that we race in Supercross, so we went there and we kind of got our bike set up for a sand track, sort of, different kind of suspension, maybe not as stiff for the jumps and stuff, and we went there with the attitude, we wanted to go in there and win the heat race to get a good pick on the gate, because the start's really critical at Daytona, and be up there in the front right at the beginning, and that's what happened in the main event. I was right up there in the front, and me and Stan had a good battle for the first half of the race, and it was just who was going to be the strongest, who could jump every lap, and that's a big key there too. And I held on, jumped every jump. I think I missed one because of a lapper, and that's the way you win Daytona.
Here are the top 5 finishers at Daytona: Kiedrowski, Stanton, LaRocco, McGrath, and Henry. Mike Kiedrowski moved to 2nd place after winning the Daytona round in the standings, while Michael Craig with the DNF went from 2nd to 5th. From the Sunshine State in Daytona Beach to the Hoosier Dome in the heartland of the Midwest, the main event is underway with Jeff Emig out front, followed by Jeff Matasevich, Craig, and series points leader Jeremy McGrath. Per usual, Mike LaRocco was mired somewhere in the middle of the pack. Coming up over the finish line jump, a Mike Craig miscue and a Jeremy McGrath stroke of good luck. Had McGrath jumped a few inches to his right, his season could well have been over. We'll take another look, but first, let's check on Mike LaRocco. From nearby South Bend, in front of his friends and fans, he probably would have sold his soul for a hole shot. He needed to keep up with Emig. Let's go back to that near disaster.
He kind of came up short on the finish line jump, and I was right behind him. And then he landed, and I had to turn it sideways, trying to land beside him. And then he bounced up and landed on my hand, and I think it pinched his finger, so he reached out and grabbed me to hold himself up.
As the 20-lap main event neared the midway mark, the battle for the lead began to heat up. Jeff Emig out front was being chased by the privateer Jeff Matasevich, who in turn was pursued by McGrath. When Matasevich followed Emig deep into the corner, McGrath saw the hole and took over the runner-up spot. Once past, Matasevich seemed to slow slightly. In short order, he was caught up in a battle for third with Craig and LaRocco. Let's go to the mechanics' signal area, Jeremy's wrench.
Skip, we know Jeremy's in great shape. It looks like he's sitting there just sizing up Emig. You think that's what he's doing?
Yeah, I think, well, he tried to make a move right there. Oh, yeah, we just got it. So he sat back. I mean, that hoop section's pretty tough. You try to push it, you may go down. We're out front now. Let's see if we can extend this lead.
The battle for the lead was over, so the attention of the crowd was drawn to the battle for third. Matasevich appeared too tired. He made mistakes that led to Michael Craig taking third and Mike LaRocco fourth. One more pass would take place as McGrath heads for the checkered flag. Mike LaRocco thrilled the hometown crowd by passing Craig to garner a position on the winner's rostrum. For Jeremy, it was 6 wins on the season out of the 8 events held to date. It was becoming obvious the championship was McGrath's to lose. The competition had found no chinks in the armor. Here are the results. Behind McGrath, it was Emig, LaRocco, Craig, and Mike Kiedrowski finishing 5th. Second 5, Huffman, Matasevich, Swink, and Jeff Stanton rounding out the top 10. Here are the point standings. McGrath with a huge point lead, 184 to 137 over Kiedrowski. There are 2 unique features concerning Charlotte's Memorial Stadium, round 9 of the series. 1, it's the smallest stadium with the tightest track in the schedule, and 2, perhaps due to feature number 1, exciting race action at the venue is virtually nonstop. 1994 was no exception. Before we get to the main event, watch the start of the second heat of the night and the season's biggest crash. At the same time, we'll listen to a few of the riders involved. The crash was triggered by Emig.
Well, I drove it in pretty deep, and you know, when I was kind of making my turn, you know, in between the jumps, it was, you know, it was like mud or something, you know, and the front end just fully washed on me. And, you know, I think just about everybody ran into me.
Well, actually, Emig made a little mistake and kind of crashed into me. I thought I was second, but we all fell on each other, and it was just one big cattle car.
Even if it was myself that would have went down, that would have happened. You know, it still could happen in the main event to whoever, you know, just because it's just a sharp left and then a sharp right back again. So, you know, he didn't purposely cause it, and so you can't put all the blame on him, but he's the one that caused it.
The crash collected such notables as Jeff Emig, Jeremy McGrath, Jeff Stanton, Brian Swink, and Cliff Palmer. Those same 5 riders took the top 5 positions in the second semifinal to move into the main. And how did they fare in the main? Did they learn what not to do in corner number 1? In almost a carbon copy of the start of the second heat, McGrath, Stanton, Palmer, Swink, and all either crashed or were held up in the corner. Jeff Emig got another good hole shot. He stayed upright and emerged from the corner right behind Doug Henry. Then came Larry Ward, LaRocco, Lamson, Ryan Hughes, and in 7th, Mike Kiedrowski. 4th place on the opening lap is a rarity for LaRocco. The Team Kawasaki rider knew that and intended to take full advantage of the situation. He immediately put the pressure on Ward. Ward went deep into a hairpin intending to block LaRocco, but LaRocco foiled that plan by squaring the corner and stealing the best line into the next corner. LaRocco was in 3rd. In front of him, Jeff Emig is about to make a bid for the lead. He pulls alongside Henry, then exiting the corner, the rear end of his Yamaha slides out. Jeff Emig is on the ground, and LaRocco will go into 2nd place. Let's check it again. Jay Springsteen might have made the save here, but not Jeff Emig. While that was going on, Mike Kiedrowski had moved from 7th to 4th. Now that set up this 3-way battle for runner-up honors. Emig took a shot at LaRocco, but did not have the momentum to complete the pass. Now remember, LaRocco had inherited 2nd place via an Emig mistake. He gave it back with a mistake of his own. LaRocco, with a secure 2nd place, dropped all the way back to 4th. Watch it again and listen to LaRocco's post-race comments.
I think when I got out front, I rode a little stiff at the beginning part of the race, and I ended up making a mistake, and I let Mike and Jeff go back around. So after that point, then things started happening.
Kiedrowski was the first thing that happened.
When we came into a turn, he just got really close underneath me and, you know, kind of pushed me out, and I had nowhere else to go, so I kind of had to just go with the flow, and, you know, he got around me. It was a good pass, I mean, aggressive pass, and, you know, that's what I should have done earlier on in the race.
One lap later, in what has become LaRocco's favorite part of the track, the Kawasaki rider put a block pass on Emig that again gave him control of second place. Teammate Mike Kidrowski was able to take advantage of the situation, and he too passed Emig. In the mechanics signal area, Big Mike, LaRocco's father and tuner, liked what he saw, did his part by clearing traffic. Doug Henry was next on the hit list.
I went out wide, and I didn't realize he was so close, and I kind of went up and squared, and he snuck inside me, and I kind of drove into him, and he drove into me, and you know, just kind of forced me off the track. You know, there was nothing I could really do. You know, if I had known he was a little closer, I probably could have stuck inside and jumped the doubles, but then he probably would have went on the outside and did the triple and passed me anyways.
I set him up, and you know, I gave him the option to either, you know, let me go by or we're going to hit. So, you know, it was just a race move. It wasn't something that I tried to do to knock anybody down, you know, and it ended up working for me.
It worked well enough to give Kawasaki first and second on the night, and Ma and Pa LaRocco reason to celebrate. For Mike LaRocco, it was career win number 4. Both Kawasaki riders gained in the point chase as McGrath finished 7th due to the first corner crash. When it was over, Mike and Mike talked about the race.
This is just kind of track you got to be aggressive on, and you know, I wasn't riding like myself early in the race, and you know, after I made those mistakes, I told myself I ain't blowing another one, so I went back at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with Kawasaki getting up in front. You know, both of us finished first and second, and you know, it's just I didn't ride aggressive enough out there. I should have been slamming like he was, and you know, that's the way you have to do it out there on the tracks right now. You know, some of the tracks are real tight, and that's the only way you can pass. You know, it's not wide enough to have 2 lines in some of the turns and stuff.
The second heat is underway. McGrath and Stanton are about to tangle. Both riders blame the other.
I was going in the rut, just taking my time because I was right behind the swink, and he just ran right in the back of me, I guess. Well, it's stupid, you know. I couldn't, you know, I mean, I was just following right behind. I mean, it's a tight corner, of course, but, you know, it's just people don't use their brains, you know.
He went down in front of me. I don't know what he's saying. He's probably saying I took him out, but I know what happened to him. The rut's really deep, and your foot peg and rear brake gets caught on it and picks your rear tire up, and you just don't go nowhere. And then I did hit him, because he hit that, and his rear tire went up, and then I hit him, and then we both fell down.
Lest you think McGrath was the only rider having trouble with the ruts, check this out. Same heat race, Doug Henry contesting for the lead ends up in the bales. A few seconds later, Jeff Emig will suffer a similar fate. The ruts in Pontiac were vicious. Watch Emig. Last lap of the heat, McGrath was all the way up to 5th. He needs to pass one more rider to make it to the main. 2 mistakes in the same race? For McGrath, that's unheard of. The defending champ is headed to the semifinals. No problem, you say? After all he needs in the semis is a 5th place or better, and he's in the main event. Here is the semi. Jeff Emig gets the hole shot. Larry Brooks dropping down from the middle of the pack. They make a sandwich out of McGrath. Now, McGrath recovered to come out of the corner in 3rd. Good place to watch Emig make this mistake. Now, from that point, it should have been easy. It was not. McGrath was bound for the first time in his career for the last chance qualifier.
Yeah, it's my first time in the last chance. You know, it's unfortunate, but had a little bit of bad luck. And heat race, I think, you know, tangled with one of my teammates. And, you know, that's all right. But in the semi, I got some dirt in my brakes, so the bike wasn't going. It was wanting to stop. So it's unfortunate. You know, I had to ride the last chance, but I guess to my advantage, I guess I'm warm.
Again, it boiled down to a last lap situation. Pass Larry Brooks and go to the main. Don't make the pass, and he'll have to go to that last chance qualifier. You already know that he is going to come up short by a couple of bike lengths. Not to worry, McGrath won the first last chance qualifier of his career and was in the main event. One problem, though, McGrath was on the extreme outside of the start line. Now, the danger here is going into the first corner, the rest of the field will have a tendency to drift to the outside. But watch what happens when the gate drops. Harry Kehoe, rider number 15 from Honda of Troy, was the only rider to beat McGrath through the corner. In the jumps that followed, McGrath rectified that situation and took the lead. How did he do it? Well, let's take another look at the start. McGrath later said it was a calculated risk. He kept the throttle wicked up. He'll cut across the front of the pack and emerge with a clean track in front of him. I think it's safe to say that in this situation, lightning struck the Pontiac field. Back to race action. Doug Henry is in second place, followed by Larry Ward. Stanton and Emig are fighting over fourth. Now that duel ends in the upcoming corner. Emig throws up his arms in disbelief, but Jeff, it really did happen. It was just a couple of races ago that Stanton claimed Emig took him out. Watch again and pay attention to Jeff Stanton's line. You decide if he had honed in on Emig's rear wheel or if he thought Emig might be gone when he got there. McGrath at this point was gone. The crowd needed someone else to watch, and per usual, that someone was Mike LaRocco, who in typical LaRocco fashion had started off the pace. LaRocco has passed more riders on Supercross tracks than anyone in the history of the sport, and in Pontiac he would add to his impressive list. With Stanton out of the way, LaRocco forged to the front and caught Larry Ward. Now Larry Ward will not shy away from the battle. Through ruts, over jumps, and through the tight Silverdome corners, the pair of riders hammered each other in a great side-by-side battle. In the early part of the season, Ward had gotten good starts, but it quickly faded. But as the series progressed, he and the Nolene Sizzler Yamaha developed staying power. At the Silverdome, he was tough to get around. Finally, Mike LaRocco was able to put him away. The battle with Ward carried both riders to the rear wheel of Doug Henry in second place. LaRocco had momentum on his side and easily made the pass. But hold on, there's more to come. McGrath by now had a huge lead. He was in cruise control. He had time to cross the finish line, pull into the pits, get off his bike, and watch this last lap, last corner battle for second place.
Back and forth in the last turn. Fortunate for me, I was in the worst position going last turn, and it turned out for the best. Those guys, both great competitors, were going for the second place finish, and when they went down, I snuck around the inside, and I was a happy man. You know, I got out there, and I got hit with the rock on my clutch finger, and, you know, I figured the last lap, just keep it up, stay in the ruts, and, you know, pull off second. Because Jeremy was too far ahead, but, you know, I got a little too lazy, and, you know, it cost me.
Mike LaRocco was the first to recover. He picked himself up, crossed the finish line in third place. So it was McGrath, Ward, LaRocco, Henry, and Mike Kudrowski rounding out the top five in the Silverdome. Then Craig, Stanton, Damon Huffman, Steve Lamson, and Jeff Emig rounding out the top 10. Here are the standings. McGrath, LaRocco, Kudrowski, Stanton, and Emig in that order, with McGrath way out front. Although three other riders had won Supercross main events thus far in the season, only one had consistently been McGrath's equal. That, of course, was LaRocco, but in Minnesota, LaRocco fell victim once again to the bad start blues. He was the victim of a crash in corner number one. Here's another victim. The kicking legs belonged to Steve Lamson, who found himself pinned under Jeff Emig's Yamaha. Lamson suffered minor burns from Emig's exhaust pipe, but was able to continue. At the end of the opening lap, Matasevich out front, followed by Craig, Henry, McGrath, Ward, Stanton. Kudrowski was in 11th, and LaRocco was in 12th. Craig wasted little time going to the front of the pack with an inside line on Matasevich and a block pass at the end of the next jump-filled straightaway. Now, the block pass is coming up. Michael Craig, since winning in Tampa, had not performed to his or Yamaha's expectations. First-year factory rider had missed a race, pulled off the track in another. The Minnesota win would go a long way in the wound-healing department. While that was going on, McGrath was lurking and watching. He felt the time was right. McGrath cleared a tabletop jump past Doug Henry for third. The following right-hander, he took Henry's momentum away and set his sights on the riders in front of him. Matasevich was next in line. Watch from the sky cam. McGrath makes the move to second look easy. When McGrath is on, he seems to be on at every race. Everything he does looks easy. 14 laps into the race, McGrath had run down Michael Craig and was applying constant pressure. And finally, Michael Craig would crack. A slight bobble was all it took. McGrath was the leader, headed toward his 8th win of the season. On the last lap, with a huge crowd cheering him on, Showtime emerged. The crowd wanted a knack-knack. McGrath gave him a knack-knack. As he neared the finish line jump, the crowd was on their feet in anticipation, and McGrath said thank you very much. Michael Craig, rider number 19, the Team Yamaha ace, settled for the number 2 position. It was Kedrowski in 3rd, Henry in 4th, with Mike LaRocco taking 5th. Let's take a look at the next 5, Stanton, Ward, Swink, Matasevich, and Palmer. Mike Kedrowski's 3rd place finish, coupled with LaRocco's 5th, moved Kedrowski back into 2nd place in the championship standings. Dallas was next. We'll make the trip with Skip Norfolk, Jeremy's mechanic.
Well, about 6 hours ago, we were still at the races, sending the last fans off, and now we're sending off ourselves. We're going to pack up and head to Dallas. See, this is where the co-pilot is supposed to help during all the unloading and loading procedures. So that leaves me to do it all. Well, fortunately, this road trip, we've been able to bring back 4 first-place trophies. Pretty fortunate. Things have been going good this year. Racing's it's not something you do for a living, it's a lifestyle. And you live for racing, and racing's a part of your life. You've got to wake up every morning and want to make it better than it was the weekend before.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Remember the Alamo.
The eyes of Texas are upon you.
We're unpacked. We're going to bed. See you guys tomorrow.
Tomorrow is here. The main event is in progress, and here's all you need to know as we join the race in the closing laps. McGrath and Kedrowski both got top 5 starts. LaRocco, where else would he be but at the back of the pack? He started 15th. Midway mark of the 20-lap main event, McGrath had the lead. Kedrowski was a ways back in 2nd. LaRocco was a long way back in 3rd. With that 1.5 laps to go, Kedrowski had run McGrath down, and LaRocco was right behind. Kedrowski got around McGrath. Now keep in mind that McGrath, assuming he kept his nose clean and stayed out of trouble, had a virtual lock on the title. Smart Money says, after he was passed by Kedrowski, the thing to do was settle for 2nd place. And if LaRocco was determined to make a pass, let him go, settle for 3rd. After all, the championship is the ultimate goal, and the only way McGrath could lose it this late in the season would be the result of an injury. An injury caused by, 1, a careless mistake. Forget that. When the pressure is on, McGrath makes no mistakes. Or 2, an injury caused by crashing with another rider. White flag coming up, and watch what happens. McGrath went to the inside of Kedrowski, drop-kicked him out of the way, and was back in the lead. McGrath has always said he races to have fun and that each race is important to him, more important than the championship. Watch the rest of the last lap, and you'll believe, like I do, that when McGrath says those things, he's not just blowing smoke. Kedrowski talks about the last lap and a half.
Yeah, I got up in the 2nd behind Jeremy, and he was riding pretty smooth and pretty fast, and I was just trying to keep consistent. At the end of the race, I knew I'd be stronger, and he made a mistake, didn't jump the triple, and I got by, but maybe I was riding a little too cautious, or he was riding more aggressive, and he got me back. And through the whoops, I said, I'm either going for it or falling down, And went through it, and I had him, and he just went inside of me and caught my front wheel and just looped his bike out. So, I almost had the win.
While Kedrowski and McGrath were picking themselves up, Mike LaRocco picked his way through the carnage to take the win.
It looked good, actually. What happened exactly what I was hoping to happen. I just came back. I came from a long ways back, and I fiddled around with Emick too long. And those guys have a little bit of edge on me that I wasn't quite making up. So I just hung back, and hopefully something happened, and it did.
Well, watch it one more time. Pay attention to the way that Jeremy McGrath hits the ground and the way he rolls. That was the kind of crash that easily breaks bones and breaks championship dreams. So Mike LaRocco in the right place at the right time took the win. He was followed by Kiedrowski, McGrath, Jeff Emig, rounding out the top 5, Larry Ward. Are you wondering about the fight and the harsh words in the pits when it was over? Check it out. Would you believe they thought that was fun? 3 races remaining and a 50-point lead. McGrath could sew up the title by winning at the next round in Seattle. We'll join the race in progress. McGrath is out front, but just like in Dallas with 2 laps to go, Mike Kiedrowski was closing from second place, and he was closing at a rapid pace. It was obvious something was wrong. Now, coming up, you'll see Jeremy McGrath riding through the mechanics signal area. I'm going to tell you right now to keep your eye on McGrath's left arm. Now, don't forget, he was in position to wrap up the championship here in Seattle. He points down to the rear of the motorcycle. It was a flat tire. His choice, take chances. Try for the win on a very unstable bike or slow the pace and ensure a finish. He chose the latter. Kiedrowski quickly closed the gap. He knew McGrath had a major problem, and it was just a matter of time. Now in the next corner, McGrath will swing wide, giving Kiedrowski all the room that he needs to make the pass. The question then was, would McGrath be able to stay in front of LaRocco? Again, McGrath was faced with a choice of trying to ride at speed to hold his position or to continue at a pace that would allow LaRocco the easy pass. McGrath again, and wisely so, chose the latter course of action. Unable to negotiate the triple, he was passed by Mike LaRocco with ease. For Kiedrowski, it would be win number 2 of the season, and for the second time in as many races, with LaRocco finishing second, Kawasaki claimed the first 2 spots. So McGrath would have to wait at least one more race to secure the title, and a new record of 11 wins in a single season would not be set. After the race, Jeremy discussed his problem.
Yeah, about 2 laps to go, 2.5 laps to go. I got a flat, and, tough luck. I couldn't do nothing with it. I knew that Mike was coming. He was coming on strong. I was pacing myself on, the way I look at it is he got pretty lucky.
Oh, you know what they say, Jeremy, it's good to be good, but it's better to be lucky. So Kiedrowski takes the win, followed by LaRocco, McGrath, Lamson, Larry Ward. Then came Emig, Henry, Button, Kehoe, and Larry Brooks in 10th. Here are the point standings with 2 races to run. McGrath is 46 points ahead of Kiedrowski, 48 ahead of LaRocco. The season was winding down. Round 14, San Jose. McGrath needs a 17th place to clinch the title.
Today's no different from any other day. I woke up the same this morning and come out to ride my own race. I want to win the race. I know that I don't have to win the race to win the championship, but I don't want to win like that. I want to win each race individually, so I'm going to be doing my best to win the race.
Is there any question in your mind that if Jeremy McGrath does his best, that he wouldn't win the race? He backed up his pre-race intentions by coming out of the first corner in 3rd place. And before Larry Ward had time to assess the situation, McGrath was alongside. He moved into 2nd in this corner with a block pass. Ward drops back to 3rd. McGrath now sets his sights on the leader, Jeff Emig. Meanwhile, Mike LaRocco was doing his by now familiar thing. He was recovering from a not-so-good start. Here, LaRocco puts the move on Steve Lamson to take over 4th. LaRocco now set his sights on moving to the front of the pack and challenging McGrath for the win. Meanwhile, McGrath had his hands full at the front of the pack with Jeff Emig. The 2 riders were at war. McGrath drew alongside Emig over the finish line jump, thought he had him, but Emig squared the corner and held on to the number 1 position. Now, you remember Mike LaRocco? Well, you remember this section. That's where LaRocco passed Steve Lamson. This time, he gets the line on Larry Ward, and LaRocco's in 3rd place. The battle with Ward had carried LaRocco to within sighting distance of the 2 leaders. In front of LaRocco, McGrath was as close to Emig as he could get, He knew LaRocco was coming. He didn't want to be around when he got there. He needed the pass. Or did he? Remember, 17th place would sew up the championship. Then again, you have to remember that Jeremy McGrath is not interested in 17th place. He wants the win. Now watch this altercation. McGrath had made the pass. Emig tried to hook back to the inside of him, clipped his rear wheel. Both riders went down. McGrath talks about the crash.
Well, Jeff was riding great. You know, I didn't do anything on purpose. I was trying to go to the inside. And he was protecting his line, trying to, and I blocked him. I mean, he could have stopped, but instead he grabbed a lot of throttle and ran right in the back of me. So, I mean, a lot of it's his fault, I'd say. I mean, I just went for the block. He could have stopped or went outside.
Well, from that point, the race was over. Mike LaRocco had gone into the #1 position, while McGrath and Emig were picking themselves up off the ground. LaRocco was in cruise control. He was headed for his 3rd victory of the season. McGrath, meanwhile, would hold on to the runner-up slot to claim the championship as he crossed the finish line jump to take the checkered flag. Here are the results from San Jose. Mike LaRocco, Jeremy McGrath, that's all you need to know. Jeremy McGrath retained his 1993 Supercross championship crown. He makes it 2 in a row as Duke Finch presents the #1 plate.
Congratulations on back-to-back championships from the AMA and all your fans. Good job.
Thanks a lot, Duke. I appreciate that from the AMA. I've worked really hard for this championship. It's for the 2nd year in a row. I'd like to thank Henry Collect Honda, my parents. You know, they do a great job cheering me on, and they're my biggest fans. And my mechanic, Skip Norfolk, he's doing a great job. Thanks.
Congratulations to Jeremy McGrath for winning the championship. There is still, though, one more race to run.
Good job, son.
For the 2nd consecutive year, the results of the final race of the season would be meaningless in terms of deciding the championship. Still, the race would go on with every competitor giving their all. When the gate dropped in the final main event of the season, temperatures were close to 100 degrees. In the extreme heat, 20 riders screamed through corner #1, 25 laps to go, and 1994 would be reduced to a single page in the Supercross record book. It was only fitting in the final event of the season that Jeremy McGrath would lead the way. And it was only fitting that once more Mike LaRocco would charge from out of the pack. He passed Doug Henry, went after Michael Craig. Through the long whoop sections and over mountainous jumps, LaRocco's pursuit was relentless. His persistence paid off like it had so many times in '94, and the pass was made. While LaRocco was working to get through traffic, McGrath was taking advantage of a clear track. Nothing to impede his progress. McGrath began to open a big lead. McGrath had lost 3 races in a row coming into Vegas. It was the longest drought of his career, and it was McGrath's intent to bring it to an end. To get to McGrath, Mike LaRocco needed to pass one more rider. That was Jeff Matasevich. He stalked the privateer. Then, when the hole opened up, LaRocco went through. But on this night in Las Vegas, LaRocco's charge would end with 2nd place. Perhaps it was the heat and the energy that LaRocco spent getting into 2nd, or perhaps it was a championship ride on the part of McGrath that echoed his championship season. Regardless, as McGrath coasted to the checkered flag, he had doubled his lead over LaRocco, and thus the season ended. 15 races and 6 long months. From one end of the country to the other, then back again. The checkered flag waved for a final time, and the 1994 Supercross season came to a close. Here are the results of the final race of the season. McGrath, LaRocco, Kiedrowski, Matasevich, Doug Henry rounding out the top 5. Here are the next 5. It's Emig, Lamson, Lusk, Ward, and Jimmy Gaddis. Let's go to the winner's circle.
Not as well as I liked. I got out to a mediocre start, and I didn't get through the pack like I needed to, and it took a little out of me, and I just didn't have the, the bonsai mode to catch up and win this one.
Well, this is the longest winning streak that I haven't won, and I definitely wanted to prove a point. Hold on, I'm getting lightheaded. I want to sit down.
Okay. That's cool. That makes for good TV.
Well, it's the best year. Last year I got 12th in the standings, this year 2nd, and, if I can increase any more, hopefully 1st.
Well, I knew I'd get a little bit winded, so, you know, I just worked as hard as I could for the first, as many laps as I could. My mouth was totally dry, and, you know, he wasn't catching me. I was putting in some good laps, and actually I was pulling on him, so I was happy with that, and I just wanted to keep up the pace as long as I could. Last 2 laps, I slowed down a little bit.
Here are the final standings of the 1994 Supercross season. Jeremy McGrath, 335 points. LaRocco finished second, then Kiedrowski, Emig, and Steve Lamson. For McGrath, 9 wins on the year as he laid to rest 1994. For LaRocco and the rest of the field, it was a year of frustration. A year of what could have been but wasn't. It was a year where lightning had struck twice.